these were settings that, again, I researched and found that like, oh, that was Michael Brower's Pultec setting for his mix bus. And so my mix bus is kind of like an amalgamation of how Eric Valentine and CLA and Michael Brower use their Pultec or their stereo compressor on their mix bus, because those are mixes that I really love.
That's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of just distilling it down for what I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to function. And okay, so from there, then it goes into another EQ. It goes into the Brainworks V3 Plugin Alliance thing, the kind of mastering grade EQ. And on that one, again, I'm doing very little. Mostly what I'm doing is I'm putting a 12 dB per octave high pass at usually about 30 on my mid channel. So again, just kind of cutting out the low rumble that doesn't need to be there to give me a little bit more headroom. And I'm also using a 6 dB per octave side cut high pass. And I usually tune that between 60 and 90 hertz, depending on the song, to again cut the mud out of the sides. I then use the stereo width knob, which I love on that plugin, and how it actually does the width processing. And that the max that I usually push that to is probably 150%. But that is a parameter that I 100% automate throughout the entire mix. So like my final chorus, or if, maybe I'm at 140 as my top, my verses are down at like 120, so that I'm basically creating that width as the song goes.
Yeah.
And opening it up and closing it and changing the scenes. Thank you.
I dig it. I got to try that.
It's definitely fun, and it definitely does something, again, that you just hear in other mixes, and you're just like, oh shit, okay, that's all it was, just basic automation. Like, don't be such a lazy piece of shit.
I know, right? So easy to get into the laziness. It's also like pop music is so compressed. It's like, what's the point? Like, let's just slam it,
Exactly. And so then I also do a boost usually at 8K, an 8K shelf on the side, about 1 dB. Again, just another little lifter to make the sides sparkle a little bit more. And that's usually the only EQ moves I do on that. So again, a lot of EQs doing not that much, except for maybe the Pultec, which, is doing a bit more of the heavy lifting. And from there, it goes into...
We're not done yet, people.
Oh, no. There's like 3 or 4 more plugins. I know.
Holy shit, dude. This is the most extensive stereo bus processing I think I've ever heard of.
I'm sure it's just get Greg Wells on the damn podcast. His is probably 8 times more complicated. It has 8 times more plugins.
If you could introduce me, then we'll make it happen.
Talk to Tim.
Okay. Anybody listening who want to introduce me to Greg Wells, you are more than welcome.
And sorry, Tim, if I just threw you under the bus. Anyways, so from there I go into my actual tape emulation, which at this time is still the Slate Digital virtual tape machine, which I do like, but eventually I will get rid of it, just because the problem that I have with Slate is that they just aren't keeping up with the software side of things and compatibility, and it's starting to get a bit frustrating. Like, just don't come out with new plugins, optimize your old ones before you give us new stuff. Like, we use this stuff all the time, and I can't upgrade my computer because I can't use Trigger. Like, come on, like, something's got to give.
I hear that.
So for me, I just, eventually I will either get the UAD, or I'll get a different type, or maybe I'll switch the taupe into that position and mess around with it there instead of it.
I've heard great things about. Wait, are you talking about the Good Hertz one, or are you talking about the Baby Audio one?
No, I've never used the Baby Audio one. I'm talking about the Good Hertz one. Yeah, they both have similar names.
Craig Bauer, I know, was saying good things about that.
Yeah, I just have never tried it. It's been on my list, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Can't have time for everything,
Yeah, right. Especially with my mix bus.
Right, totally.
There's already too much going on.
Man. We're just driving the bus.
And so then on that, the surprising thing is my goal for my mix is to have it float around -3 on the VU meter for the tape plugin. So
got it.
So
again, as long as it's not -3 lufs, then we're still kosher, you know?
So I'm hitting it so that it's not really like there's compression happening, but I'm not getting too much. Like, because at this point, as you've already noticed, there's a shit ton of compression. Like, I don't really need to add more soft kind of style compression. So it's just more to like tame the high end and give it a little bit of that analog glue that everyone loves. After that, it goes into a Spl Vitalizer Mk2t.
Okay.
So the Spl Vitalizer Mk2. This is just like, it's almost like, you know, when you hire a mastering engineer and don't understand what they're doing. I feel like this is kind of the plugin that does that. So every band kind of affects another band. The bass little kind of thing where it goes from round to sharp is super, super useful. Like that bass thing can add so much thump into your mix. It's incredible if you don't have it, or take it away or make it defined. I then, you know, boost the little whatever they're boosting. It's somewhere around between like 4 and 6K on the first band, and then usually around 16K on the other one. Again, it just gives it this weird, cool sheen. It just makes it sound done. And I do use the stereo enhancement on it as well, but again, not much. I usually have it to like 1 or 2 on its setting, if anything. And I am checking meters to make sure I haven't gone overboard with phase stuff and all that stuff. So like, it's not just, I'm just applying this and going, who the hell cares? From there, then I hit my 2 limiters. So my first limiter is a clipper. I either use the K clip or I use the IK Multimedia clipper at the moment. And what I'm doing there is, again, I'm not clipping, like this one is something that I do watch and I make sure to not hit hard. I clip maybe 0.3 or 0.4 dB at the most. And usually what that is a snare drum or a transient that has come through that didn't get sorted out until then. It's usually, you know, I'm not pulling it down, so it's affecting the whole mix. I'm really just trying to shave off those annoying guys at the top and bring my mix just a little bit louder. And then it goes into an L2. And same thing, I'm the most amount of compression or limiting that I'm doing is like a dB, maybe a dB and a half.
Is this the Pro L2 or the L2?
No, this is just the L2. This is the L2.
Waves L2.
And the reason why is I just like the way it sounds. The Pro L2,
it's the sound of records, man.
Exactly.
Love it or hate it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like I use the Pro L2 when I bring the level up even more to send to clients to approve, because it's a lot more transparent and I can work with it in a more pleasing way. But the L2 is just like, it is my sound. And it's like, you know, I'm not using it as my final stage limiter. I'm using it more, again, to just control peaks and get things louder. So when I'm done with my mixes, they usually end up, depending on the style of music, between -13 and -10 or 9 RMS or LUFS before mastering.
Well, given all of this, I'm sure I'm sure you know what I'm going to ask. But it's like, what are you leaving for the mastering engineer? I know you send to Ian Shevchik, if that's how I pronounce his last name.
We're both at a mystery on that.
But hopefully he's going to come on the show soon, actually. I've been in touch with him, but it's been,
good.
Good. Yeah, I hope it happens. Ian, if you're listening on the off chance.
Yeah, go on the show, man. I want to hear your magic stuff that you do.
Come on over. So I know you're working with him, at least, and probably some other people. Like, what are you leaving for the mastering engineer? I feel like it sounds like you have it so dialed in, like it's done. Like, what else is there to do? You know,
they're just there to fix any things that I can't hear in my room. And I mean, I say they're just there to do that. They're there to do their thing. Like for me, I want to give them the product that meets the approval of my clients, creatively speaking, and is where I want it to be. I leave enough room that they can be creative, and they, you know, Ian does huge. I mean, like we just got a mix back from him, and it's still a big difference. Like even though, you know, I'm leaving him, I mean, and I'm still leaving him a decent amount of headroom. He's still getting, you know, between 9 and 12 dB of RMS headroom, I know people who deliver mixes at -6 and -5, and then it's like, you're really not leaving anything.
That's insanely loud.
But at the same time there's plenty of mastering engineers who will tell you it doesn't matter how loud it is, it just matters how it sounds. And if it sounds great at that level and there's no issues, then that's the level it needs to be at, Whereas if you're just cranking something to crank it, then no. So like a world track, you're going to have to squeeze the ever-loving crap out of it and make it sound like a bad pop track, or a bad world track, I guess, when you're done with it, if you want it to be ridiculously EDM loud. But like if you're talking about a rock song, like those ones are notoriously always between, -6 and -4 when it's, done in final product. So it's kind of like, if I'm getting it close enough for you and you don't have any issues with what I'm doing and my client loves it, which is the most important thing, then it does, it's just a number. As long as I'm not causing any detrimental effects that can't be undone or, honestly, even in mixing in the box, anything can be undone. If Ian emailed me back and was just like, hey man, like this is way too aggressive. Can you, send me something where you have this and this backed off as an option? I'll do it. Like I have no problem with that. But I feel like mastering engineers, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, at least the good ones, they're expecting what you're getting is something that the client already likes. So in their mind,
right, exactly. The client signed off on that mix.
Exactly. So
and the client signed off on the hot mix with the Pro L2 at the end, right? Like
exactly, because that's what they're hearing. And I supply that to my mastering engineers, but I also tell them that all I'm doing to get it to be louder, like if I'm trying to, if I'm delivering to my clients at usually like -7 or -8, and I try not to go louder than that because I want the master to be even louder that they get. So again, that they hear the master and they're like, oh, that sounds better, because most of them aren't checking at equal volume. They're just hearing louder. And, as Dave Pensato already said, the loudness wars are over, loudness won. So, at the end of the day,
Great.
we're going to pick the louder one. So it's kind of like, I want to get it to a place where they still have room to put their flavor on it. But if I was delivering a master at like -6 or -5, the only thing that they can do is correct frequencies, and, they're bringing it down to bring it back up again. And so, that's just not in it for me. But the thing that led me to where I'm at with my mix bus is that I loved what mastering engineers would do to my music when I would send it to them. But because they had to do a decent amount more because I gave them more freedom, I didn't always like the choices that they made. And, and the client might have liked them, and that's fine. And, we go with that. And, if it's, we're talking about the minor, like the 2% things. We're not talking about it 50% sounded bad. This is just very subjective and opinionated. But I was kind of like, really thinking about it and being like, okay, well, if I'm going to send them something that is like exactly how I want it, the transients are handled pretty much exactly how I want them at this stage, at this loudness, which could be sent to streaming platforms because it's already, -3 or +3 above all of the LUFS standard. So they could just send this straight to Spotify, or, well, fuck Spotify, but all the other places, so on. But like, there is something to be said. Like anytime Ian touches something, anytime that, I send something to Brian Lucy or whatever, the magic comes back. Their sonic imprint comes back. It's not like it's just my thing, just a little bit louder and made to fit in. Like it's different, and different in a way that like they can't fuck up anything that I've worked really hard to make a certain way. Like they can only fuck up what I've given them. There's not extra room to run on top of that. And I know many people feel, there's different camps for everything. And, some people want to leave that to the mastering engineer and all that. And, again, it's art. Everyone does it differently. Everyone does it the way that they see that makes sense. For me, it makes sense to try and handle as much as possible, because if you're thinking about it as a pyramid, mastering is the tippy top of that pyramid. So, and they're only getting 2 tracks, because I'm not dealing with stem mastering. So it's, it's kind of just like, okay, well, if I'm going to give them 2 tracks, why would I give them 2 tracks that need